All right, so the talk this week is actually goodness of life. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? So, this month of July, what we've been doing is the Centers for Spiritual Living theme, and that theme has been loving kindness and forgiveness. The topic this week is from Ernest Holmes' What We Believes, and it's the What We Believe, which they've shortened here. I'm going to give you the full one, but it's the shortened one that they provided was, we believe in the eternal goodness of life. But it was actually said, or what it actually says in the What We Believes is, we believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. So this is a lot to take in, and most especially as we look at the world of effect that we live in. Because the world of effect is always trying to show us something other than all those good things we just talked about. So we're living in a world that is constantly testing us. I like to say it testing or challenging us. So what I want to do is I want to help us to see beyond the world of effect to the divine good that is at the center of everything. And then I also would like to offer some tools to help us get from that sense of duality back into that sense of oneness, so that we can get back into that place of oneness, which is where we receive and experience the highest and best in our life. And then I want to share some stories that will help you to get there. So it's important to start with our understanding of the divine or God. So here at Centers for Spiritual Living, Ernest said, there is only one life, and that life is God. So he said that's all there was the life that is God. Now, since God is the God of our understanding does not experience duality as we do, this God must be only good. Now, I use the word good, even though God is more neutral, because it helps us to get to that place, because we have a dualistic mindset that we live with in our world of effect. So it helps for us to put that on there. But it is a label, and sometimes we can look at it. If we can look at that divine nature as neutral and just providing everything in the way of like grace, then it can sometimes change our sense of that. But I think we use the word good to help us get to that place of recognizing the divine as desiring only the highest and the best in our life. So it takes it to a newer level. So, Emma Curtis Hopkins said, "My good is my God, and my God is my good." And I love that. She would use the word God and good interchangeably and mean the same thing. So she was setting a consciousness about that. So this presence of good only desires, as I said before, the best for us. It only desires to experience itself through us, and if it's experiencing itself through us and in our experience, and we are individualizations of it, then why would it do something to hurt us? It would be hurting itself. So it would only do what it lovingly wants to do through us and as us. So the question then becomes, why is it that we experience less than good in our life? Why do we have these moments of difficulty or challenge or whatever it is that's happening? Well, I think the first thing is that we put labels on things in our life. Good, bad, that was terrible, they're awful. We always put those labels on things. And I think we do that because the human part of us likes to have the ability to put things in a certain order, because our ego feels safe when we can label something and say, that's not good, this is good, that's bad. So we can put it into these little boxes, and our ego feels comfortable. So what happens is when we put these labels on things, we then categorize them. And these categorizations, we set thoughts on those about what this label that we placed on it means. So we set a weight on that label. If you will, a judgment. We so often put judgments into things. So what this does is it gets put into this internal database that's going on within us. And then that internal database is then going into the universal database, or the one mind, or the universal intelligence, or the law, or the creative substance that's bringing forth our experience in life. And then it's brought into our experience. So this then begins the cycle of what I call limitation. Because we see the outcome of our labels become our experience, so it reinforces those labels in our life, right? We get into that cycle. And so here, what we're doing is we're breaking that cycle. We're no longer accepting that experience as the truth, or we're no longer looking at that as the only truth. Because I experience doesn't mean it's my truth. So Ernest Holmes says in this thing called You, the barriers between you and your greater good are not barriers in themselves. They are things of thought. It is because of this that all things are possible to faith. Jesus summed up the whole proposition when he said, "It is done unto you as you believe." It's done unto you as you believe. So as I believe something, I'm then bringing that forth into my life. And this works on the positive as well as the negative side of life. Because the experience here has a tendency to appear dualistic, but the divine sees it all as good. It's all good. It's all God. Because it can't differentiate there. If it did, it would destroy itself, because it is not capable of being in that. It's experiencing itself through our lives. And so it's a different thing. It's sort of beyond the consciousness to a degree of what we can understand. I like to think of our brains as like the filters from the divine mind, because our brains, if we had to take in all of the infinite intelligence, I think we'd blow up. So I think of our brains as like these filters that can allow us to experience the divine in this individualized form without blowing up. So it's like interfacing with the divine. So what happens is these labels then become thoughts or beliefs, then become form. And again, that's just restating what I just said, and that's that there's that cycle of limitation. But it can also become a cycle of good. We can shift that, and that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to look at now. So I like to look at it this way. It then becomes like the glasses that we choose to look at life through. I'm sure many of you have heard of, they see the world through rose-colored glasses, right? That everything is beautiful and rosy and pink because they see it through rose-colored glasses. And a lot of people say that's what we do here at Science of Mind, is we see a world that is that rose-colored, beautiful, perfect, whole, and complete idea. And that's what we want to do. That's what we're building towards. But I like to take it a little further than that. So let's not just say it's Rose's glasses, whoever Rose is. Let's say it's Rev G's colored glasses, or it's Rev Ed's colored glasses, or it's Tom's colored glasses, or it's Joe's or Wendy's colored glasses. So now it becomes personal to you. Your glasses are your lens on the world, what you're seeing in the world. So I have the opportunity to make those glasses into what I like to call good glasses. So these become good colored glasses. Everything that I see through those lenses, which the lenses are really what I like to say is our heart center. When we can see things from here, it has a shift in how we see the world. When I'm seeing from here, I'm seeing the limitation. But when I can move into my heart, I see differently. So I see through good colored glasses. So we'll just call it good colored glasses, because I don't like rose colored glasses anyway. So I look funny in them anyway. So what we're doing with this is we're shifting our perception from the labels, or our belief, to good, which is our God, or the good which we wish to experience. So when I see things and I immediately want to go to that place of labeling it, then I need to pull myself back and say, what in here do I need to know? What is in this situation that can help me to grow who I am to a higher level? And that's what we want to talk about here, is just getting to that place of recognizing that our good is our God and our God is our good. So I'd like to share a story about myself, a story that left me feeling bad, made me feeling untrustworthy, limited in my abundance in the natural universe, not trusting in all of that or thinking that's what it meant. And it also meant separation from my beloved Ed for a year, and it meant me experiencing winter in New England. Now, all of these things were labels that I was starting to put on things, right? So this happened because of a human experience of having to file for bankruptcy because of where I was in my life. And in that filing, I ended up with all of this garbage that I laid on myself. So I had to shift my consciousness. Now, the blessing of this was that in the shifting of my consciousness, I was able to find that I didn't have to stop continuing my education to become a practitioner at that time. Even though I had to stay in Rhode Island, where there was no place for me to take practitioner studies, I found out there was an online practitioner study program that I could continue on in. So it was a blessing in that sense, and there was a community here that could help to support me in what I needed to do as a practitioner in the community. So that was one of the really beautiful pluses. And it also brought the opportunity because I had to be in Rhode Island, because in Rhode Island was where the house was that I was part owner of with Ed. So it was a place that I had to stay in order to go through this thing called bankruptcy. And so it made me realize that the universe had an idea behind this. I was meant to be in New England. I was born and raised in California. But I knew something was going to shift in my life, even when I was back in California, and that I would not be there all of my life. And when I came here, it was like I found home. I found home in Reverend Ed's family, and I found home in a way that I had never felt it before, by being here. Now, granted, it was difficult because we were separated. He had to go back and finish out his last year in school before he retired. So you had to come back and forth here and there. So it was a time of great stress on our relationship, and yet we were strong through that. And we remained connected through that. And the winter in New England ended up not being a big deal to me. And I always said as a Californian, it's like, I don't do snow, right? I don't do snow. I'm a Southern California boy. I don't do snow. But it didn't matter. It's like I enjoyed it. It was fun. It became something new to me. And it also meant I got to experience the beautiful New England fall and the beautiful New England spring and summer. So I actually got all of this great, good stuff out of this idea that would have been considered limitation or bad in my life. And I ended up finishing my practitioner studies in the following year after you were back, and then you started your practitioner studies. So he was a year behind me in practitioner studies, but I was the first practitioner in Concordia in Rhode Island, and Ed was the second. But it brought about a whole amount of new healing in my consciousness around abundance and finances. It brought about all kinds of new and grand and great opportunities in my life. And it was amazing. So I shifted my consciousness about what that story was. Now, another story I want to share with you is that in the Science of Mind magazine on June 12th of 2015, Reverend Ron Fox shares the story of the restaurant and his congregation. And I love the story. Basically what it is that the community, every other Sunday, would all go to a restaurant as a group, when they always had their table at the restaurant that they went to, right? Well, this particular Sunday, when they all went to the restaurant, there was another group sitting at their table. So you know where they went, right? They went into that place of grumbling and, I gotta wait, and all of this, and they were sitting around, and they were kind of frustrated, and in that kind of really unattractive place. And finally they got seated, and as they were sitting at the group in the table, one of the individuals in the group had a seizure. at the table and passed out, hitting her head on the table, and they called the paramedics, and they were able to come and get the person taken care of and everything else. And as they sat there, they realized that had they been seated at their normal time, that individual would have been driving home when that seizure took place. So the universe is always trying to bring forth something good for us. Even in the things that seem like, ugh, what's wrong with this, right? There's something there that the universe wants to bring forward for us. So we have to work on really getting into those good-colored glasses, that I'll call them. So I love that story. And he said in this same reading, he said, in Science of Mind, we teach that even when we cannot see the perfection in every moment, our lives are unfolding in divine perfection. Wow. And they were. That day, everything was unfolding in perfect divine order. So we never know. We never understand or never see. How many people have heard stories of someone who said, you know, I didn't take that flight, and then the plane crashes? I've heard many stories like that in my life, or whatever it is. So there's always something, you know, and that's not to say that those who were on the plane, you know, maybe they didn't listen to their tuition, maybe they did, or maybe that was their time. I don't know. But you hear these stories all the time. So there's always the opportunity for something amazing and good to come forward out of every situation, out of everything that we see. Whenever there is an apparent disaster in our life or in the world, we always have that opportunity, as I said before, to change the label. I think of Sordid Lives. And I think of, there's this, in the movie The Sordid Lives, there's a young man, and when he was a young kid, he was very heavy. And his mother, she went out, and she bought him jeans. They were the husky jeans, and he was embarrassed to wear the husky jeans because he was a big kid, and he was like embarrassed at the fact that he was big. So his mother went out to the Salvation Army and found a pair of pants, and found slim pants, and she took off the husky label and she put slim on these husky jeans just to make her son feel better. But she changed the label to help him with his own belief about himself. And of course in the movie he says, yeah, like I could pull that off. I was baby Huey. But anyway, but that was his take on that. And it was like, we can change that label. Because as we change that label, what's the universe going to do? I change that label from what I don't desire to experience to what I do desire to experience. What am I giving the universe to work with? What I do want to experience. I'm giving it the opportunity to bring forth even more higher quality in my life. So, if we can shift how we see things from a curse to an opportunity, we can really build to a higher level. Interestingly enough, I just realized this, I just found this out recently, that the Chinese character for crisis is a combination of two symbols, danger and opportunity. Danger and opportunity. Isn't that interesting? So the Chinese character for crisis is danger and opportunity. Because in a crisis, we always have that opportunity to grow. We always have those places where we can go to a higher level. And yes, it does feel dangerous or difficult at the time. But we have to be willing to move through that. As Reverend Matt always said, if you find yourself walking through the shadow of death, don't pitch a tent. Keep walking. Get what you need to get in that space. Learn what you need to learn, but keep moving forward. Because there's always a higher opportunity waiting our experience. Because when we're in that place, we can't solve the problem from the place of the problem. We have to elevate our consciousness to bring ourselves up to that higher level. If I can bring myself above to look at that situation, I can shift my ideas about it. So I offer you a tool at this time. To change your perspective, I would ask that you take a second look at a story you have carried with you for a while. And we all have our stories that we've been carrying with us for a long time. Those stories that we automatically go back to. We just jump back there and say, oh, yeah, well, I know why that's happening, right? Because we just automatically go back there. I want you to go back and look at that story. And as you look at that story, I want you to look at it deeply and find the good in that story for yourself. Find out what that story brought into your life that was good, because there is good there. We need to look for the miracles where they appear not to be, but everything's a miracle. It's all unfolding in perfect order. So we have to go back and look at that and find that. So I challenge you to go back and look at a situation, a story you've been carrying with you, and find out. Find that opportunity that exists in that story. That opportunity that will definitely show itself. And sometimes we may have to say, I want to see the truth in this, and use that as an affirmation. I want to find the truth in this. What is the truth? What do I need to learn from this? Be open to those questions. So we need to remember, as Ernest Holmes said in this thing called you are a part of the universal mind, one with the universal substance. A part of the universal mind and one with the universal substance. You live, move, and have your being in pure spirit. Now, I know it doesn't feel that way all the time, but it is always the truth. It is always the truth about you. All the wealth, the power, and the goodness of this spirit exists at the center of your being. Everything that you are is an expression of God, even in the things that don't appear to be good as we label them. Everything about you is perfect and whole and complete, even when you're in those places that don't feel that way. So remember that. You experience this good in such degree as you accept, believe, and feel it. We talk about spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer here. In that prayer, it's about getting our consciousness to that level, first of all, of recognizing our oneness with the divine. All God is, our oneness with that, and then declaring what we desire at a point where we can feel ourselves experiencing that good. And then giving thanks and releasing it and knowing that the divine energy, the creative law, the universal intelligence has accepted that and is making that so. So we have to remember that. So it's really about you experience this good in such degree as you accept, believe in, and feel it. That's embodiment. That's when you embody what it is you desire. So I'd like to conclude this evening with that God is good all the time. God is good all the time. That's what we believe. That's what we espouse here at Centers for Spiritual Living. So if you're looking for imperfection, the universe will provide you the proof in your experience. If I'm looking for the imperfection, the universe is going to show right up and say, yeah, it's right here. Oh, yeah, it's right over there. Oh, yeah, it's over there. Because if that's where my consciousness is, if that's where my belief is, then that's what I'm bringing into my experience. So I have to recognize that when I'm in that place of judgment, to shift my attention. If you stay at the level of your problem, the problem will continue to exist for you. Then you will end up in that cycle of negativity. And I've been there. I've done that. And I'm not doing it anymore. I've decided I'm finished, done, complete. I'm not doing that anymore. Not to say that that won't happen in my life, but that when I get into those places, I'm going to say, how can I apply these principles to bring forth a better life? To experience more of the fullness of life, even in that situation that we as humans like to label as bad, negative, wrong. Always throw all those things on it. I'm going to say, that may appear at this point to be negative or wrong, but I know there's good in there for me, and I'm going to experience it. I'm going to claim it out of there. So when apparent negativity shows up in our life, I challenge you to take and put on your good glasses, your glasses of good, your Rev Ed glasses, your Joe glasses, your Tom glasses, your Wendy glasses, the Rev G glasses. Put those glasses on. Those are the glasses that are seeing from here. from the divine eyes. And if I can put those divine eyes on, I'm empowering myself to find the opportunities in the situation. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, "There is good and I ought to have it." This was a little woman who was known as the teacher of teachers. In the 1800s, she was graduating more women ministers and ordaining more women ministers than any other denomination, any other teaching organization. This is a woman who stood up to Mary Baker Eddy and said, "I can't accept your precepts. I love what you do here, but I believe there's good in everything." And she moved beyond that and went to Chicago and opened a school by herself, a woman in the 1800s. And that's where she came from. There is good and I ought to have it. And when she said that, she wasn't just speaking for herself, she was speaking for all of us. Because she was putting this in her book, saying that this is what you need to say to yourself. There is good and I ought to have it. So when you see those situations that are going on in your life, say, there is good and I ought to have it. Whatever that is, be willing to take that chance. In every situation, there is good and you ought to have it. In every situation. So be willing to claim it. Declare it. Know it's your truth. Let it unfold. So I'd like you to join me in the affirmation, a nice simple one this evening. And if you'll just repeat it after me. I look at my life. And I know that it is good. Let's do it one more time. I look at my life. And I know that it is good. Isn't that a great affirmation? Talk about opening channels. Yes. Namaste. Let's just ground this good for ourselves right now. The purpose of this treatment is to ground the truth that each one has the power and the ability to see the good even in the situations that appear to be less than. So I recognize and I realize right here and right now that there is one infinite universal intelligence, one creative source, one absolute reality that I call the Mother, Father, God. It is the creative energy, it is the universal principle, it is the one mind that is expressing all of life through its beingness, through its substance, its source. It is the active energy behind all that is experienced in the outer world. It is the intelligence that brings life into form. It is the Mother, Father, God presence. That is the name that resonates with me, but choose the name that resonates with your heart for this divine energy, for this infinite good. And as I recognize that this is the creative source of everything, I have to know that I am one with it, for I am made up. Every cell of my body is an expression of this divine mind, of this creative universal intelligence. And as I know that about myself, I know that since it is all that there is, it is absolutely the truth of each one in this room and all throughout the cosmos, for all are experiencing this oneness at one degree of level of understanding or another. I recognize and I realize my oneness and the oneness of all. And I declare that good right here and right now. And it is from this place of knowing oneness, of knowing the absolute interconnectedness of all of life, that I call forth the truth for each one in this room to experience and know who they are in those situations, in those life experiences that challenge, that sometimes defy our ability to move up and on. But in those situations, I allow each one to dissolve that situation so that the truth of the good is revealed with ease and effortless grace. As each one dons their good glasses, the lenses of truth, the lenses of the heart, and reveal a whole new idea of whatever that situation was, transforming and transfiguring their lives into the highest level of being, into the fullest and most complete, abundant, joyous, peaceful, clear, guided, wonderful, creative lives that each one is a worthy child to receive. I am grateful. I am deeply and profoundly grateful, and my heart is full with thanksgiving. As I realize and I recognize that claiming this truth is the absolute truth, for it is the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to bring and give the kingdom to and as and through each one right here and right now. It is experiencing its fullness through each life here and all throughout the cosmos. And so I bless and I release and I allow this word to flow into the ocean of infinite possibilities. That energy of the law that is a pool of infinite ability. Where these thoughts and these desires and these requests are absolutely brought into form, brought into complete manifestation, bringing forth a wave of good for each life here. And so I release it, I let it go, I know that it is done right here, right now. I say, blessed be, amen, Ashe.